Click links to join the channel here over at subscribe. Thanks for everyone over there. And I have a mailbox too if you want to mail me some comics to look at. So Disney is being sued for being too woke and cringe. Disney is getting sued by the shareholders for a few causes of action under tort contract and SEC laws, but let's focus on the one that I'm more familiar with and I've been talking about for a while, or theorizing about, specifically their breach of fiduciary duty. So roughly what is happening is Disney and the shareholders have rights and responsibilities created and enforced by law, and we'll get into the woke stuff in a sec, but the company is making products that are not finding an audience, which is, I guess, a charitable way of saying they're making movies that are just freaking bombing. It's not like the old days of Disney when they were a family-friendly company that made movies to make a profit and entertain and also kind of fit the certain, I don't know, corporate vibe, corporate theme of Disney to get people, well, we want to make these family movies. We want to sell t-shirts and coffee mugs and collectible figurines for a ton of money, like the merchandise and toys. That merchandise makes even more money than the movies. The movies just to get you, to whet your appetite, to get you involved in the Disney universe. So the kids are begging to go to there's two theme parks, Florida and California, and they got a cruise line, but it's like the merchandise and the videos and the Disney Plus, and there's so much to get people involved in the universe, and they're not doing that anymore. They're and then they got into a thing with Ron DeSantis and that was kind of chicken ass all the way around for both parties, because it seemed like, to be fair, it seemed like DeSantis did that just to put his name on the map a little bit because he was going to run for office. Like in hindsight, I look back on that, like that seemed a little bit weird. Like, oh, he's the governor. It's like you're running for president. Unfortunately for him, he's running up against Trump, which is still definitely going to be the pick for everyone. And like DeSantis is kind of a weird. Oh, so you flew to a foreign country to sign HB 269 to prevent people criticizing the country and the people from that country in violation of the First Amendment. Gosh, that's weird. You literally signed it in that foreign country. Don't say anything in the comments, but it's freaking hysterical. Anyway, so they're making these movies that are not doing as well as they should, and the shareholders are saying that this running of the company is so negligent that it meets the elements of a breach of their duty of good faith and fair dealing to run the company well. So Disney mostly makes entertainment in various forms: movies, parks, cruise ship, and merchandise, but it's probably the movies that are the driving product that sets the tone and gets the audience in the door to buy the other stuff, to hook the kids. And, it's not as nefarious as it sounds, or at least up until about 20 years ago when this stuff was legitimately family friendly, just fun, simple cartoons. Maybe there was a lesson in there, Hans Christian Andersen type of, mostly they're ripping off old European stories and dialing down the, burning people alive and starving people to death in the woods or getting eaten by wolves and coyotes and bears and type of stuff, because those old European stories were pretty freaking horrific if you read them in their original format. So Disney was dialing down to make everything more, American and plastic, and God, America's so lame. Anyway, so a company usually got two ways of dealing with shareholders. There are these younger growth companies where excess profits go back into the company and they don't pay dividends. That comes later after the company has kind of reached market saturation. But in Disney's case, the movies that they're making are not matching earlier performance, which isn't so crazy necessarily because no company is going to surf that hot trend forever. But if you look at their recent movies that have bombed and underperformed, they have been total woke cancer, which roughly means, I know that the left wing, these Twitter soy pussies get just so out. What is woke, my guy? Yikes, my guy. Bad take, friendo. Touch grass. Put your finger inside somebody. What is woke? Anti-white, anti-Christian, pushing a toxic left-wing agenda, the BLT ideology, anti-traditional family focus, misandrist, replacing European characters, usually with African ones. Literally, the European people who wrote the stories. Yeah, we're going to swap them out. Oh, that seems kind of parasitical. Why don't you just write something new? Hugo Boss says what? You can ad hominem and straw man all you want. You're not addressing the argument. They never do. It's like, you guys still really don't have an argument, do you? If you didn't have ad hom, straw mans, they wouldn't have anything. It's like, that's why they need to censor and deplatform. Anyway, so all the cancer they make is not selling, or it barely makes a profit. So the shareholders are alleging that this behavior of pushing what amounts to religious Bolshevik ideology, it's just was it David Koresh or Jim Jones or something with the Kool-Aid in South America? It's like it's a religion. People hear this argument. I'm just going to keep saying it until I get removed from YouTube. It's not. These aren't the publicly traded companies. You think, oh, articles in a corporation, they're just going to return shareholder investment? No, fuck no. This is a cult. It's a $150 billion cult. But the Finks of the world, of those big like institutional investors, it's not. There's more, way more. Like, why do you think Google bought YouTube? So they can control the narrative. Facebook bought Instagram to control the narrative. The only big white pill on that is that Elon Musk bought Twitter, which is very interesting lately. Anyway, so I'm trying to say this is a religious belief system to these people. It's like, so Disney was slowly subverted and corrupted and bought out. You look at like what happened to Disney. They changed completely from what they were, family friendly, to pushing anti-family degeneracy. It happened in like 20 or 30 years. This is not Disney. Disney is not bought out by people who have any intent of maintaining the Disney vibe. It's just to be a carrier for this ideology, and the stuff isn't selling. So the shareholders are kind of a little bit curious about what's going on. So, for example, something like the Little Mermaid, they replaced the little red-haired mermaid with a black one, and the movie got off to a slow start. People say it's going to turn a profit, but it's not going to turn a big one, and that's not why they make movies. And so the allegation would be like, okay, so we're going to look at this movie and others like it. Would it, but for your, approximate and actual causation, but for your negligent actions, would it have made more money if they kept the original characters, or they made the Peter Pan an absolutely bombed, or the Eternals? Would they have made more money if they didn't remove the European characters, if you just kind of retold the story the way that people were expecting it to be told? Now, this is kind of tricky because that kind of speculation is difficult for a court to determine for those specific causes of actions, but I think they do have a solid argument to be made because Disney was more successful when they used the original European characters. Assuming this is something that the court feels that they have, they can legally adjudicate, and it survives summary judgment. Will the judge and jury have any idea what the plaintiff is alleging? See, it's kind of complicated. I mean, a lot of these kind of cases you almost need specialized juries or something, because if they didn't know about this current woke cultural Bolshevism, I don't know if they'd make the connection between Disney pushing these globalist movies and the movies also underperforming to the tune of billions of dollars. They might see it all as within the scope of the Disney business, and it's like it's generally accepted business practices and that kind of stuff, and that Disney was acting in good faith to sell a product and not push an ideology to the detriment of sales, which is affecting the shareholders who are very concerned about it. I don't know. It's they said they're suing on a bunch of other things as well with the Security and Exchange laws about some of the insiders at Disney, insider trading kind of thing, breached their fiduciary duty because they were selling at the top, and then they taking profits at the top before they started really pushing this woke ideology, and then the shares just started dropping and dropping and dropping, and like, oh, what a coincidence. Now here, when I say America sucked, that can be interpreted the wrong way. I mean, there's a lot of fraud, Enron type of fraud, a Nancy Pelosi type of fraud going on with corporate America where there's no oversight. And you go, what's the SEC for? What's the FBI? What's the IRS for? Yeah, but at some point in countries, they reach a point of the corruption is just too extensive, where the calls coming from inside the house. And the founding fathers talked about this kind of stuff. They knew it was, any country could go. It's like it goes 250 years. Like, oh, but isn't America like 240 years old? Yeah. So when you have Nancy Pelosi worth $150 million, it's like, oh, why? I didn't insider trade. My husband did on information that you got from your role as a representative and a fiduciary. So I mean that doesn't matter. You still breach your duty to we the people. Is anyone going to look into that? It's like, well, they haven't so far. Gosh, yeah, that's. I mean, what's going on with all this kind of stuff. So like at some point you just have to, like, the whole system has to be dismantled, whether it's Disney or anything else, because there's just kind of no coming back. Like, you can't, there's too many leaks in a ship. You just have to, like, okay, well, take the wood from the ship and rebuild something else while you're still afloat. Anyway, kind of a convoluted video. By all means, Disney, double down. Like, at some point, you got your head in the sand about all this kind of stuff. You got to notice that something weird is going on, right? I mean, it's not just, oh, these movies, they're really not what I remember from childhood. Oh, well, they're just getting updated. Yeah, but like that argument would make sense if the new audience was getting on board with it, but the audience isn't getting on board with it. So why are you making things that is pushing the audience away, the customer away? Why are you making things that are losing money and you're repeatedly doubling down? And most people are looking at these movies that are losing money. They get woke, go broke. They're looking, they're going like, yeah, but the movies that are losing money are the ones that are pushing this BLT agenda and, a lot of the stuff dealing with that and with too much diversity. And, oh, so what you're saying is, I just said what I said. Those are the movies. There's a correlation between these elements in the movie and losing money. So you're not a publicly traded company that's just seeking to make money. You're doing something else. You're following an ideology, which seems like it's more like a religion. Anyway, the case will all depends on how well they advocate their position. We'll see. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.